All right, we are live. Hello, LinkedIn and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. I have two special guests today. We're going to talk about how to have fun with data literacy, and we're actually going to share the 7 steps to reaching your data literacy goals. You're going to hear from Michael Mahoney from Palmer Partners, as well as Jordan Morrow from Click. But before we get started, I do have a question I want to ask you. As you're joining, let us know who your favorite superhero is. This is very relevant to the discussion, so please go ahead and pick your favorite superhero. You'll know while I'm asking this later on. So I'm going to bring in Michael Mahoney from Palmer Partners. Hello, Michael. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Kate. Thank you for.
How are you doing?
Hey, very good. How are you? Everybody good?
I am doing fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this session. I love having fun and I love data. So, 2 in 1 is just going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited too.
Great. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and get started and then tell people who you are, what is it that you do at Palmer Partners?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's Mike Mahoney. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I didn't know it at the time, but I guess I'm considered what they call a data pioneer in the sense because I've been working with data now for over 20 years. I don't like to age myself like that, but it is a fact. I am from Nebraska and graduated from Nebraska with a marketing and management degree. And, you think, well, you didn't have much with data there, but I went to go work for a company in Omaha. It's called Info Group. That hopefully you like a little success story. Everybody likes an entrepreneurial success story there. So the founder of Info Group, he's from India, and when he graduated from Nebraska as well, he was working for a mobile home dealer and mobile home manufacturer, and he was tasked with getting a list of every single mobile home dealer around the country. Well, back in the 70s, that didn't exist. And so being an entrepreneur that he was, he ordered every single phone book in the United States and had it shipped to this manufacturing facility. And he went and proceeded to go through the phone book in the yellow pages and pulled out all the mobile home dealers and then proceeded to call them and get how many employees they have, who the key contacts, and so on. And it's interesting. I worked for them for 10 years and, grew to be over a $400 million company just using free data. And, back in the 90s and or early 2000s, the big thing that we always were talking about was how well do you know your customers? How well do you understand, your customers, both business and at the consumer level? Mm-hmm. And so, what my task was to go out to businesses all around where I'm from in Kansas City area and educate companies on the importance of finding out as much as there is about your data. But one of the biggest concerns businesses had was sharing their data with another party. That's the biggest asset that companies have is their data. And so when you say, hey, well, just give me your data, I'll match it up against our database of 16 million businesses, and we'll go and identify some of the key characteristics like, what type of industries are the highest in your customer base and how many employees and what, all these different things. But sadly, that was a challenge to say the least. But what's crazy, Kate, is now today, businesses with technology, they can do this seamlessly with the new technologies that are available out there. But I worked for them for almost 10 years, and then I went to go work for another pioneer in the data industry as a family-run company. And the way they got me was they said, hey, we have this Info USA database that you could sell, but we also have a consumer database on top of that, and we're going to have you go work in the tourism space. Mm-hmm. So, hey, travel, tourism, I'm all on board there. So anyway, I worked for them, and what my mission was to work with like the convention and visitors bureaus and the state tourism offices and all the different types of travel organizations and help them understand their data. We had a CRM platform where we were gathering all their data from people that are requesting information, and all they would have would be like an email address or their physical mailing address. And we would enhance that intelligence with clustering tool that we provided, as well as the demographics and psychographic behaviors. So it's been a lot of fun to work with data and educate businesses on the importance of becoming data driven.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the journey, and we're getting some interesting comments on that superhero. So we got Rob saying he's going Batman, Naveen with Superman, Rahendra Iron Man. Let's see, we got a couple of Thors actually.
All right.
Let's see, we had
the Marvel and DC.
Going to join us live in a couple of minutes. Said that he thinks Doctor Strange or Thor or Ant-Man. All right, you get or Black Panther. Come on, Jordan, pick one. The question was who's your favorite, not who are all superheroes. But anyways, Michael, who's your favorite superhero?
Who's my favorite super?
Yes,
sure, I'm a adventure kind of guy. I like Captain America, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably have to go with Captain America.
Michael, are you there? It was kind of breaking up slightly. You started talking. Maybe the superhero talk, but as soon as you started superhero conversation, it started kind of wobbling. I don't know if the rest can hear him. Let me see.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now it's great.
Okay. Yeah, so my superhero favorite is Captain America.
Captain America. Okay. Yeah. I actually have the outfit for Captain America that I dressed up as him for one of my Spartan races. And I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought the outfit looked cool, but then everyone was saying nice Captain America outfit. So then I actually had to go and watch one of the Marvel movies to actually become familiar. I don't really know much about superheroes, but I'd probably pick Superman or Spider-Man. That's just, they both have cool stories and superpowers, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's...
Okay, somebody said that they can hear us both well. Okay, good. Maybe that was just on my part. All right, so the topic of the day, data literacy, right? Let's get into it. How can you describe data literacy for those who might have not heard that term before, or who've heard it but have like 15 different definitions up in their head?
Yeah, I mean, data literacy, I mean, Jordan's who is coming on, it's the ability to read and work with, analyze, and this is a big one, argue with your data. Being in the industry, I've had the unique position because I've been calling on businesses and then also working in the IT departments of what I have found is that IT departments, like to keep their data tightly secure, which that's their job. And when the business side of companies, the executives and so on, they're always going to challenge the data that's out there, and they want to know as much information as possible about the data that they're looking at to validate that it's accurate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, if you can, and that's the big thing. I mean, data right now we're in the data revolution. Data, they're saying, is the new oil, right? And so one of those things is, when I worked with this company that was the family-run company I was talking about, they have a technology where they would build models for the tourism industry and be able to figure out which segments or groups would be most likely to visit a destination. And that technology, 6 years ago, it would take them anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to build this one model to create this report. Today, with the technology and things, that takes minutes to do. So it is so critical more and more now to be able to read and understand and have as much information about your customers and just your data in general. And what's scary is what I'm hearing still is that there's 82% of all data that's coming into a business is still not being analyzed, which is mind-blowing to me.
Is it not being analyzed because it's in an unstructured manner, or are there just not enough people with the right skills to analyze that data?
And I think that's it. I mean, a lot of people, they have all these different systems, and we call them data silos. And, you'll understand why I'm saying the different superheroes in a minute when I tell that story. But data silos, people want to protect their data, and the problem is that the more data that is combined and shared, the more you're knowing about your customers, and the better you're going to be able to improve your business.
Yep. So that was actually my next question was, so what does data literacy have to do with superheroes? Now that we know what data literacy means, and we've got our favorite superheroes. By the way, we still have comments coming in. We've got anime fans of Son Goku. We've got Spider-Man, Wonder Woman. We got a lot of other Wonder Women. So people continue to comment on their superheroes. But what was the significance of that? Why don't you tell that story?
Yeah, so I was tasked, and just I'm trying to learn as much about data literacy. I mean, data literacy is hot right now, and everybody wants to know as much as there is about it. And so I attended some training that teachers are using to with STEM and so on about work. STEM is the science, technology, engineering, and math, and they wanted me to speak with the STEM students, and they say, hey, make it fun, but also try to make it so that they understand that sharing so much data can be a security concern. And so when I went through the training that they showed, they were showing graphs and lines and learning all these terms, and very academic way of teaching it. And if I'm being honest with you, I was kind of dozing off during it, because it's just, unfortunately, data can be boring. And so what I did when I got in front of the kids is you want to make it relevant for them. Like the business executives, if you can't get their attention right away, everybody has ADD. You have so little time, especially when data. If every time I tell somebody what I do, they say, "Oh gosh, that's boring." But then when I tell them, "Hey, well, I was just with a bunch of kids and I had them all together, and before they got together, I had them write out and answer 2 questions. Number 1, who's their favorite superhero, and then what's their zip code?" You go, well, how's that irrelevant to data literacy? Well, with their data, with the superhero information, what I asked is I started asking them questions about, hey, do you think I know what the favorite superhero is of the group? And then, hey, your parents, do you think their superhero is the same as yours? And getting them to think about just what does this data mean and why is it so important? Well, what's interesting is I had them break up into groups. So here's all the Superman fans over here, the Batman fans over here, Marvel, and so on. And Kate, it was crazy. The amount of bantering that they were doing, and the protecting of my guy's better than your guy, and I'm just like, guys, you don't get it. I mean, yeah, what you are is what I call a data silo. In businesses, the Spider-Man, that could be like the sales department, and Batman, that could be like the marketing department. And we all know that marketing and sales usually they don't get along so well. It's always someone else's fault, right? Why something's not working. But right. I said, imagine if you take these groups and combined them together.
That would make a good movie.
Right? And that's what I said. All of a sudden now you're not Superman or Batman. You're the Justice League, or you're the Avengers. And I said, congratulations. Now you understand what data literacy is all about. Right. And because when you combine all that data together, that is how you succeed.
Wait, what was the significance of these zip codes?
Oh, thank you. So just with the zip code, with the company that I worked for, we would take that information and enhance it with intelligence that we had access to, which was from companies like an Experian or Equifax or whatever, those big credit corporations. Right. They're gathering all your demographic information. And so what we are able to do is enhance and understand these kids' basic demographics and so on. And that's just using the zip code. And I said, imagine if I just had your street address, we can get specific to your address on all the demographics in your household, like what is the average age, are they married, and so on. And then even one more, and that is, income. And that's just using Kate, that's just using a physical street address. Today, oh my goodness, with all the cookies and everything that's in your computer.
And your social media, the stuff you put out willingly every day.
Yep. That's exactly right. Now it is so, easy to get so much information. And that's why I taught these kids that, be careful when you're giving out this information, because you never know what it's going to be used for. Data is power, right? I mean, that's the big competitive advantage over every organization now, is the more data you have about your customers, the more you have about your competition, the better you're going to do.
And with great power comes
great sacrifice.
No,
right?
responsibility.
Right?
More responsibility.
More responsibility. Oh, my kid will kill me when he's the biggest Spider-Man. I've seen that movie 10 times too.
Oh my goodness. So
I thought it was sacrifice too.
You get very creative in the way that you approach this space. And I wanted to ask, are there other things that you've done in the past where you try to make this topic a little bit more interesting, since our topic is having fun with data literacy?
Yeah. So one of my favorite stories, and it was a challenge to say the least. One of the largest tourism marketing organizations that manages pushing over 700 different tourism websites. He said, "Hey, Mahoney, I like what you're all about. I love data. I love your product, but gosh, it's boring." He says, "You need to scare me, and you need to get their attention in some way, because this is complicated, right?" So I went with the audiovisual guys, and I said, "Hey, I want you to put this music on." And I put a prop on, and I walked up with this prop, and I came walking up with the theme music to the Terminator going, and everybody's looking at me like, what the heck's going on? Well, the CEO of this company was sitting in the front row, and he said, he wanted to be scared. Excuse me. So
you dressed up as the Terminator. Okay,
I dressed up as a Terminator, but the best part is on my presentation, I had the screen that looked like what the Terminator looks like when he's looking at you. And I told the CEO, hold still, and it pulled up his name, and then it was a blurry picture. And as it entered in more information, like his address, then it started entering in his demographics and then his psychographics information, and the picture kept getting clearer and clearer. And he's like, what is going on? Because the picture became clearer of him and his family.
Oh my God.
And he's like, okay, you got my attention. And then I put up there, income, question mark, are you scared yet? And he's like doing this, like, okay, we're done. But that's the power of data. And it was amazing. To this day, I mean, I will go to tourism conferences, and they'll see me, and they don't say, "Hey, Mahoney," they say, "Hey, it's the Terminator guy." And it's because it was memorable, right? It's just that scared them. So, it's using that data in a fun way like that.
Wait, so now do you carry those Terminator glasses with you everywhere you go, just in case you see a data person, you pop them on, or?
Yeah. Well, in the tourism industry, that would work. I mean, when I did the STEM, I used that same approach. It's funny when you put those glasses on. I'm not the size of Arnold by any means, but you put those glasses on, you wear the leather coat and the black jeans. They get the idea of what you're trying to say. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that the second part of the title, right? We were having fun with data literacy, but we're also going to go through the 7 steps to reaching your data literacy goals. So do you want to briefly go through the 7 steps and where that idea came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was working for that Info USA, I had the privilege of going to meet with down in Texas, Zig Ziglar. If you're familiar with Zig, he's one of the most dynamic, motivational speakers. He's all about, writing books called See at the Top. And he had a conference called Born to Win. And I was privileged to go down there. And I actually, during a break, went up to him and said, hey, how are you finding new customers for the Zig Ziglar Corporation? And he's like, what? I said, hey, ABC, always be closing, right? And so he's got a good kick out of that. He invited me over for dinner at his place, which was one of the biggest honors I could ever have. And he explained to me, following the 7 steps to your goals. And so that's how I came up, is I used his 7 steps, to be able to understand and accomplish your goals. So these 7 steps aren't just for data literacy, they're for all your goals.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And so, you identify your goal. What are the benefits for reaching your goal? What are the major obstacles that you run into? What are the individuals, groups, professional organizations that will help you reach your goal? The plan of action, and then your completion date. So, and I got to put a little plug in, Kate. I'm chosen to speak at this Click World event. That I'm going to go into great detail for each one of those at my Click World event called 7 Steps to Reaching Your Data Literacy Goals. So.
Right. And we're going to talk about Click World in a bit as well, but wanted to know which day are you speaking? So if people want to tune into that session. You don't know who's speaking, Michael.
Shame on me, but I don't. It's June 24th.
Might have to bring Jordan in sooner than later.
No, so yeah.
Okay. Question before we bring in Jordan. Question for you. Who in the company is really responsible for making sure that they get data literacy right?
Yeah, so that's the beauty about data, is that anybody can be responsible for data. You need a data champion, and you hope it's your executive. And honestly, I must say that with data now, if you are an organization and not embracing data, you're probably going to fail sooner than later, because your competition is embracing data, and you will fall behind because they are using that data to get that competitive advantage. So, people think it starts in the IT department. There's different divisions now, the business intelligence, the analytics. The key is you have to have a data culture that is ripe to be able to figure out who's using that data. And then on top of that, you have to be able to be respectful enough that not everyone understands data. Like I said, a lot of business organizations, business executives, they think it's boring. Or, and so if you can make it fun and relatable and show success using this data, an executive once told me, he says, you could have the greatest widget in the world, but if you can't show me within 3 to 5 minutes how this is going to make me money or save my company time, I'm not interested. So
you work with people who have 3 to 5 minutes? That's awesome. I think that's a long time. Wow. I thought it's like 30 seconds. So
yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. So
all right.
I failed to mention this. One of the most successful data literacy success stories that I've seen is the company I work for. And my CEO worked for Deutsche Bank, and he was an analyst there, and he would spend anywhere from 3 to 4 days gathering the data to analyze, and he would do this weekly. And he says, gosh, there's got to be a better way. And so he found Click, and he and his partners put this all together, and was able to now, instead of spending those days analyzing the data, he spent minutes gathering it, and then the whole week analyzing it, and found a $3 million annual error because of his. And so, he went to his boss, said, hey, where's my bonus? Well, this was during a financial recession. And so, unfortunately or fortunately for me, he didn't get his bonus. He says, well, we could do this for other organizations because there's so many companies that don't know how to use their data, or they're protecting their data by the different groups. Like I mentioned with the superheroes, if we want to get them to be the Justice Leagues and the Avengers, right? And so we bring in those best practices for that, and we work with the financial industry. Another funny story is we were bringing all our customers together for an event at a Click event, and we cook them dinner and we rent a house and everything. And one of the individuals that was with me was with a healthcare organization, and he's looking around. He says, "So let me get this straight. That's a manufacturing company that works with metal. That's a poultry company. We're a healthcare company." He says, "There is no rhyme or reason to who your customers are." And I said, the bottom line is data. They all have the same needs to be able to read and understand it and get the best practices of how to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the skills that's truly transferable across different industries and sectors. And we've got a comment here from Scott Taylor saying that data isn't boring. The stories people tell about data tend to be boring. So Scott, hopefully you're having fun in this session since you've been sticking around. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and bring in Jordan Morrow. Some people might know him. He's shaking his head no for some reason. I'm going to bring him on anyway. So this is Jordan Morrow from Click. Hey, Jordan, good to have you in here.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you.
Thank you.
Well, why don't you, give us a little intro of who you are, what do you do at Click? I know a lot of people would already know you. You're the Chief Nerd Officer. You talk about data literacy probably in your sleep with all your kids and all of that. So yeah, go for it.
I definitely talk about it with the kids, but if I'm doing it in my sleep, my wife will kick me out, of course. But Jordan Morrow, Global Head of Data Literacy for Click. I've been at this now for years on and years. Thankfully, when I started this, it turned into something. And so now data literacy is a worldwide movement. And I love seeing it. I think it has a lot of power. I think there's a lot that can be done with it.
Yes. So I know you've been listening to the session with Michael. Any feedback, comments? Do you want to give more insight into Click World since you might have more knowledge on that since you're at Click?
Yeah, join us next week, 24th, 25th. Like one of the things that's been fun and exciting to see about data literacy at Click was when I started here, it was a very new topic. We didn't even announce to the world of Click that I worked for Click for about 11 months. So we just kept me hidden because it was a new thing. And I wasn't talking about the product. I wasn't selling the product. I was talking about data literacy. And we went to Connections is what it was called at the time. And I had 5 sessions that were standing room only. And they asked me to repeat one because there were too many people that registered. The next year, we had 14 breakout sessions. We had me on the main stage. We had a panel discussion, and it's only grown. And so this year, it makes me really excited to announce that we always have a standing data literacy track at this point. And we get to invite people now. We had I don't know how many applications submitted to be speakers within the data literacy track. Unfortunately, we can't have them all. But Mike, of course, is one of them, and we look forward to his session. I give one. My Kevin Hannigan, the Chief Learning Officer at Click, is teaching, and we have multiple data literacy tracks. And the thing that excites me about that is it's not just my voice. It's not just Click's viewpoint. The more viewpoints we get on this, the more power it has. Kind of like the superhero analogy. The more different opinions of superheroes you bring in, the more power you bring. And so I look forward to next week. I will be present during Click World Virtual. We have a virtual data literacy booth that will be present there, and I will be there pretty much every session, probably including in the middle of the night when it's going on in the APAC region, because I really want to be there. So
that's awesome.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just shared a link to Click World, and I was trying to figure out, Mike, when you're speaking, but I couldn't find it on the site. So I was trying not to multitask too much, but it's either June 24th or June 25th for those who want to continue talking about data literacy and hear the detailed 7 steps. So sign up for the whole thing. I mean, it's only 2 days. I've actually signed up as well, and I'll join as many sessions as I can. Not sure if I'll join Jordan's. We'll see.
Who would want to do that?
No. So in terms of different companies, right, which companies do you guys think should actually worry about data literacy and trying to make sure their people are data literate? Are these the the PayPals, the IBMs, the people who have all these data professionals, or is it just any company at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's any company. I mean, if you have data and you're not analyzing it, you are making a huge mistake, because your competition is, and you're going to get passed by. Data is power. And if you don't take advantage of that, you're not going to exist. And especially today, I mean, with the way technology is rapidly changing, like I said, I mean, I was working with the biggest challenge I had was, let me show you how you can use data to understand who your customers are. And people are like, huh? How do you do that? And it's like, no, taking all this data and putting it in with your customers and being able to, get that additional intelligence, the more you know, the better you're going to be. But it's just, back in the day, they were like, well, I don't even understand how you can do that. And now it's like so mainstream and so easy to do with this technologies that they're actually just foolish, if you ask me, to not do that.
Yeah,
any size company.
The reality is, I get asked this question quite often, like, is there a region or an industry that's doing better than another? Are there organizations doing better? And as you know, my job literally takes me all over the world. I'll tell you right now, every industry needs it. I'm working right now with two very large, I won't go into names per se, healthcare organizations. I mean, these are ones that have been on the front line of the COVID-19 situation. I've had non-click customers of very large companies reaching out, and we already were working with some of the largest organizations in the world. Here are the facts about this. Even the companies that you would think, and there's a very popular search engine out there that you would think they've reached out. And so, I mean, the reality is everyone needs help here. Doesn't matter, even in an organization like Netflix and Amazon, yes, you've got brilliant data scientists doing amazing things, but do your end users get it? Do they understand it? And data literacy is for all. So what we're seeing is that, and one of the things, the conversations happening right now that are very prevalent for me, what's the future of data and analytics look like post-COVID-19? So I think a lot of companies were sitting here investing in it, but we're more wading in the water. And COVID-19 put one heck of a slam on them and said you weren't ready. They didn't have quick insights. They didn't have quick levers they could pull based on data. And now organizations are trying to figure out, what will this look like, and how do we get there? And so my calendar has been busier than it literally ever has been, as organizations are trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I think, Jordan, one thing about COVID-19, it's also brought to light the fact that the public needs to do a better job at being data literate, because of all those charts and graphs that were shared that show the curve, and a lot of people, I think, don't really understand what any of that means, and it was, I think, easy to mislead, maybe unintentionally at times.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with that, I think you said it well, is people were doing their best, but every model was wrong, every single one, and that's because we didn't know the denominator. We didn't know how many truly had been infected, and so they were doing the best they could. But this is what data and analytics is. It's iterative. We got more information, let's update the models. Oh, it looks worse, it looks better. Decision here, decision there. But people don't understand that. They see a model, and then 2 weeks later, they're like, why did it change? Well, that's how probabilities work. That's how data and analytics work. So you're exactly right. We are getting requests on how do you make public more data literate, and how do you make governmental organizations more data literate? How do you make all these things work together? So it's not just from a business perspective, but we as individuals absolutely have a responsibility to increase our skills there.
Yeah, I know you shared a statistic probably a year or two ago, and I'm sure it's still relevant, that you guys did some survey about data literacy. It was a statistic that was surprising, but I don't remember the exact number. Not sure if you do, about how little the executives at large corporations.
32%.
32%.
One out of three said they were confident in their data literacy skills. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not knocking on any executives watching this, but that number was too high. I think that they were a little more confident than they should have been. And that's based on my work with executives all over the world. And it's not that they don't want to be. I think that's the key we have to understand here is, one, I think when we did that study, data literacy was newer. And so they didn't understand exactly maybe what they were answering. But two, I think what you're seeing right now with COVID-19 would absolutely illuminate for all of us that just wasn't the case. And it's not that people are data illiterate. I also want to debunk that right now. everybody is at a certain level of data literacy. It's
Right.
how confident are you with it?
Mhm.
How confident can you do it? We all look at our weather apps like today. You look at my weather outside, the app shows it's going to rain. Yeah, it's going to rain. It was 90 degrees yesterday or whatever. So, I mean, we all use data to some extent, but we've got to empower people more to be able to do it more effectively.
And yep, we have a question here from the audience. So Sajid is asking, can the speakers share the tools they're using to analyze data and what they generally look at in the first place?
Yeah, I'll share that. I work for a vendor. You know, the reality is, let me explain this in a very different way than what tools do they use, because pretty much most tools are successful. It's the fact that they get blamed when data and analytics is not working well. That's not what they should be blamed for. It's the fact that we need to empower people with skills to use the data with it. So like a picture building a house. If you're putting up a wall, I give you some nails and I give you a screwdriver. That's not going to work. I need to give you the hammer. But what organizations have done historically is they make the tool and the technology the strategy, versus have a strategy and then tools and software will fall into place behind it. You need the right tools to do it. So for me, you need tools that'll source the data. There's good ones. BI tools, you need analytic tools. You need them to fit the scope of the levels of analytics, right? Most companies are stuck at descriptive analytics. So even if you invest in Click or one of our competitors, you're just building really pretty charts because you're not taking it to the next level. And to take it to the next level is where you need the data literacy skills to come into play.
Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we try to be agnostic on the tools. You know, the bottom line is that you have to understand the culture to figure out what type of tool you want to use. I mean, you know, I think if you have a good handle on, you know, what's the executives buy-in on technology, then you can kind of get an idea of which way to go, you know, for budget reasons and everything else. You know, we it's all about just blending the right technology. But here's the other thing is, you know, you can have the greatest tool in the world, but if you don't have the experts of how to utilize that tool and to maximize the ability of what that tool can do, that's the name of the game. And let me just, I mean, I've talked to many of my customers trying to find a Click expert. They don't exist very well. I mean, this is a newer technology, right? And it's one of those things where companies are always kind of afraid, well, if I invest in this technology, is this going to become shelfware? Well, that's why you need to have consultants or some type of a team that is going to be dedicated and have a roadmap of what you're wanting to accomplish. And that's what I talk about is, you know, first thing you want to do is, you know, figure out what type of personality, data literacy type individuals there are, right? I mean, there's the novice, there's the experts, the IT people, you know, I mean, and like I said, figure out how they all can work together. And once that whole organization can work together, it really doesn't matter the platform as much as just the cohesiveness of working and understanding data.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just as Jordan mentioned, you can have the tools, but you can't build a house without the workers, right? The people who are using those tools. So thank you for that. I completely agree. I mean, I'm also product agnostic. I do tend to use some products more than others just because I've used them more and I have more experience and just feel more comfortable. But I've noticed in playing around with all of the data visualization products I could get my hands on, they are all very similar in that you can get the very basics done quickly. And they all obviously have some little nuances where they're trying to stand out. But anyways, we've got another question here from Jerry. Michael or Jordan? I just realized together you guys are Michael Jordan.
Oh, funny. That's awesome. He's my favorite basketball player.
The relationship of how to monetize data skills in relationship to raising community of data consumers. In other words, how important is data savvy consumers to data information providers?
So this is interesting because you could look at it both ways. Like you could look at it, data information providers don't want savvy consumers, so they could be manipulated. I hate to say it that way, but this is one of the things that has brought GDPR, which was part of the conversation earlier, and other things to the forefront. What I would say is overall from like a data society perspective, the more savvy the consumer is, the better it is all around. Because then the data information providers can make smarter decisions because those using it. Imagine you're not data savvy as a consumer. You buy varied things, this and that. You could confuse data information providers. And the reverse can happen. And so for me, I look at the ability to use data effectively as a benefit on the whole, right? Data literacy, I call it a BS detector. Because if you think about how much misinformation we are actually fed today, you know, that term fake news is on any side of the political aisle. I don't care what people want to say about it. So if we can empower data consumers more and more and more, make us more savvy, then it is harder for manipulation to occur. Then data information providers can provide better strategic solutions for us as data consumers. But this is why all this needs to be done. Think about hundreds of years ago, literacy, just the ability to read, was quite literally, in some cases, made illegal, right? At that time, the church tried to hold power and keep people from being able to read, because the moment you let it out, society can now fight back. Well, let's give society and data consumers the ability to fight back. But we saw literacy raise the world as a whole. Data literacy will raise the world as a whole, in my opinion. So I think that it just depends how you look at it. I think there's a negative side to it, but I'm generally the positive guy, and I think that it raises everything up.
No, that's awesome. That's so true. I'm a huge history guy, and I never thought of it like that. That's so true.
Yeah, I really like that explanation. And I never thought about, I guess I'm just a positive person. I never thought about companies wanting to keep consumers kind of in the dark as much as they can so they can use that data. But I see, Jordan, your mind went there. So good to know. That's where you're.
This ugly mind of mine can go that direction, right?
Oh.
So anyways.
Okay, can we tap in? There's one question that got passed here from Todd on, do executives still want to trust their gut and experience? I have a very, what I think is important point on that one. And that is data literacy, data and analytics should never rid itself of the human element, which is the gut feeling, which is experience and heuristics. What data literacy, yes, to answer your question specifically, yes. In some cases, executives feel their gut feel, their experience outweighs the data. And then you have people who feel data outweighs experience. What we want to do is balance between them. And I think that's been lost for years. I think people are fearful data technology will take over. That's not what we want. We want a combination of experience, heuristics, our background to combine with data and then get to a decision. And that means sometimes uncomfortable decisions. Oh, I've been doing my job for 5 years this way. The data is showing it this way. Be done. I had a role before I came here where I inherited this presentation that went to the executives at my company, and everybody but the CEO, I believe, 78 slides long or so in PowerPoint. I was like, what the crap are we doing? It had been done that way forever. No one questioned it. I built it down into 6 charts they could look at on their phone. Okay, they liked that better. I mean, it had predictive capability, and as far as I know, they loved it better than what they had. So challenge things, but make sure we don't hold on to things because that's the way it's done. Use data to support the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I think, Jordan, you're addressing part of my next question, which was, what challenges are companies facing in trying to implement data literacy? And I think one of the challenges you just said is we've been doing things this way for 25 years, and it's been working. So why do I have to change, right? So any other challenges or obstacles that you guys have faced in trying to implement data literacy in an organization?
I'll let Mike go, and then I have the number one answer I always give to people. So
all right, Michael, go ahead.
And I think that's the culture, right? I mean, if you don't have the right culture in the organization, it's just not going to work, right? I mean, you have, there's going to be people that are going to fight you on it because, like Jordan was saying, there's fake news, right? And that's fake data. That's not, how'd you get that information? That data doesn't look right. It's, your data's all messed up. That's old data, whatever, right? And that's where it's so important that we build this data culture that's ripe with wanting to learn how to become data literate and, working as a team and going back to the superhero things, part of the goals that I was talking about is having these meetings where, okay, this is the Batman group going to meet today. but the whole company, that's going to be the Avengers or the Justice League. We're all going to get together and have fun naming the groups, right, and making it fun for the whole groups to understand what's going on, and even pinpoint what, when you're doing these groups, what type of data that you're going to be meeting about. What is it coming from the sales department? Is it coming from the marketing department? Is it coming from financial, whatever? And have some fun with it. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, the number one roadblock, and companies ask, what's the number one pain point? It's culture. Mike nailed it. It has nothing to do with technology. It has nothing to do with your software, your data. I mean, those things all matter. Don't get me wrong. Yep. But you can have the best things in the world, and if your culture is not going to absorb it, waste of money. I mean that's the reality of it. And so there has to be an evolution of culture, and it's helping people understand it is fun. It's not intimidating. It's not boring. Let's just upskill you a little bit so you're comfortable doing it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're running close on time, but I will just take one more question from the audience. We got Joe asking, you can briefly tell us, how did you become fluent in data and enter the data literacy industry?
Go ahead, Mike, and then I'll let you go first here.
Well, at the very beginning, I just mentioned I fell into it working for the Info Group and the other family-run company. And, it's just when I met Jordan, in fact, and I was new with Palmerall, I said, selling Click is tough. Working with Click is tough, and it's just because it can be complicated. But again, that's because organizations, they're going to challenge you on, there's so many different technologies out there, and how is yours better? Well, instead of going about it saying, oh, this technology is better than that technology, it's, hey, let's first figure out, are you even ready to be able to embrace the technology that we are going to help you with? Because if you see that data is critically important for the growth of your company, then that is the name of the game. And as far as with me, I am a passionate, as you might tell, person about helping companies. I want to help them succeed. And I get a thrill when they tell me, we just saved $3 million a year, or, we understand our customers and we changed our marketing altogether, and now our customers have grown this way. I mean, those are things that just mean so much to me, because it just proves that data is the new revolution, and we have to embrace it. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So how did I get into this? I'm a math geek, right? I'm absolutely a statistics geek. I love math, data science, statistics. But it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I started having these ideas that everybody needs to be able to use data. And so when I'm asked, how did I enter it? Well, I don't want this to sound arrogant. I helped invent and pioneer this entire field of data literacy. Was really the first to build a program in the world. Was really the first to start to bring this out. Gartner at the same time started to talk about it. And I'm just grateful the ideas that I had merit, right? Because the previous company I worked for, I first proposed ideas around this topic, and they just said no, gave me a no. And Click took a shot on ideas that I was having, and lo and behold, it pioneered pretty much an entire field. Thankfully, I love being a nerd. I jokingly say I'm going to nerdify the world. So let's do this.
Chief Nerd Officer, right?
Nerd Officer, absolutely.
See, and they call me the data geek interpreter. I had to take statistics twice to pass it in college. So anybody can be a data literate person, right? Data literate. It is universal. I mean, data is everywhere. If you don't embrace it, you don't learn it, you're going to get passed by. And that's just a fact. I mean, and like I say, I'm a marketing guy, but I know that this is where it's at. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, guys, thank you so much for taking part in this session. It was really great, and thank you for those who joined us live. Just quickly before we wrap up, where can people go to learn more, and where can they contact you if they want to continue the conversation? Maybe start with Michael.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I mean, my email is mike@Palmerall, and I spell it right here, POMEROL partners.com. Feel free to email me. PalmerallPartners.com is our website. Here to answer any questions you might have. And yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. Jordan?
I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter. I have my own site, chiefnerdofficer.com. I write about different topics. My latest piece was on the future of data and analytics after COVID-19. Then visit us at we are the pioneers in this. We have a full program, click.com/data literacy. But just reach out. I'm an open book. Kate and I met, 3 years ago now, just by chatting, and have become good friends, whether she wants to admit it or not. And, just reach out. I love talking about this topic.
Awesome. All right. And we do have more comments and questions if you guys get a chance to go in and respond later on. But thank you again for doing this, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, guys.